minutes, but I think it's a really interesting piece of work. And certainly, when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, I started reflecting on when I first joined the trade union, or when I first heard about trade unions. And when I was at university, the abbreviations, equity meant more, I thought it was bank account, ATL an insurance company, and Unite a student accommodation provider. And certainly Unite doesn't have a particularly good reputation among students. Many young people will never hear about trade unions, never mind thinking of joining one. And that's really the challenge that we've all got within this room, both me within NUS, but also us as a trade union movement. How do we encourage more people to recognise that trade unions are there for their rights and to support them, and a really important part of the workplace. And so these are going to be my top tips. Some of them you might already be doing, some of these might sound completely unrealistic, some of them we maybe can work together on trying to implement. So my first one is offering hope in a time of need. There are many threats facing both your members, but also many threats facing young people and people who aren't even your members yet. Youth unemployment's reached a record high, and we need to not only seem to be politically active, so lobbying government, joining causes and campaigns, and providing moral outrage, but we also need to be providing very practical support. So I want to thank the trade union movement for their support on campaigns around education, maintenance allowance, and the battles we've had on tuition fees. But I also think that there's more work that we can do together and with other organisations out there supporting young people to provide practical support. So as cuts start to have more of an impact on a local level, how are we linking up with organisations like the British Youth Council or youth councils at a local level as fights or campaigns around youth services take a much more local angle? Could we be providing advice online about good kind of employers or vacancies that, in your mind, reach a minimum standard or certain codes of practice? We've seen a lot of unpaid internships emerging. Could you be offering more support in saying, this is what your rights at work are? Because lots of young people now see unpaid internships as a social norm. So I think there's a lot of work for us together to do around that. Could we be providing advice to people who are unemployed and young people who are unemployed about the benefits that they're actually able to get? Because lots of young people don't know about that. And could we be providing tips on looking for work or rights at work? I mean, all these things are available elsewhere, but why isn't the union seen as a hub or a place in which people can come for that sort of thing? And certainly, if people are looking to join you, you want to make sure that they're seeing those sorts of supports and those sorts of advice front and centre. And that leads me on to my next point. I think if you look through many websites, and I did a little bit of a trawl before today, it's very, very, very hard to find any section of many websites that are appealing or directed towards young people. And obviously you don't want to pigeonhole young people as only being interested in youth issues, but certainly when you're looking front and centre on a website for the first time and you might not even know what a trade union is, it would be nice to see something that appeals to you or seems relevant to you. And certainly if we want to develop that sense of social norm, or we want to develop that sense that young people are joining trade unions, we certainly should be providing a space, a hub, or some sort of advertisement that shows that other young people are a part of your movement. And I think this basic element is missed by many, but young people is not just about providing space on your website. I think it's about having young people actively involved in making decisions in your organisations, or supporting you in turning some of this research into practical solutions. So do you have active youth committees? Do you have young people actively advising you? Do you have forums in which you can go out and talk to young workers to ask them to find fresh ideas and new solutions? And I think, in turn, that will really support and benefit the work that you're doing. They will come up with maybe innovative ways, or they will link into things that they're already doing in other organisations that they're involved in, and might open up new avenues for you. So, as someone in the research highlighted, more people are looking at websites, Facebook, and read tweets than they are reading leaflets. Are you invest enough in these types of mediums, as well as the traditional mechanisms of reaching out to new people? And I think in relation to John's piece this morning about face-to-face communication and community organising, this is a method that lots of young people are involved in other organisations. Hope Not Hate does approve a lot of young people to deliver a lot of their work. other organisations, young people are familiar with those types of techniques, so really utilise them to play a role in that work, even if you don't have the money to create full-time positions. Lots of young people or young members might be willing to do some of that activity. And I think that's something that both in NUS we don't do enough of, but also within the trade union movement. We don't utilise our members to play a more active role in supporting us from day to day. Amnesty and other organisations are very effective at saying, if you have 2 minutes, you have 5 minutes a day or a week, this is what you can do to help support our cause. We don't make it easy to highlight what different ways that you can play a role in our organisations if you're not interested in coming to branch meetings, not interested in sitting through long committees or going to annual conferences. We're very hierarchical, and actually we need to offer people more opportunities to just pick up and get involved in something if they've only got a certain amount of interest or time. But the main thing I suppose I should pick up on is the stuff around benefits, and talking in relation to a lot of people highlighting kind of NUS's benefit system and how that might be something that we could build on in the trade union movement. I thought it was interesting to see the need for individual benefits to be highlighted. I mean, what many people don't realise, students, is that they're automatically members of NUS. We just have the extra card as a way to offer them additional benefits, but also it's a revenue-making scheme for NUS to be able to deliver some of our campaigns work and other work. And we've just actually started, we just launched a graduate card. So for people who have graduated, they can now get an NUS card for their first, I think, 2 years after graduation. And that was in recognition that many graduates are facing the same problems that students are facing, but also that some of those people really like those benefits and still want to hear about NUS beyond their time as being a student. Many of the issues that people are facing are not just about their time as students, not just tuition fees, it's youth unemployment, it's unpaid internships are things when people become graduates. And so we're trying to build that relationship with them beyond being a student. But I think there's a real opportunity for us potentially to work together on that. We, at the time of advertising the graduate card, should be telling people about the organisations, about the TUC, or about the trade union movement. So I would be really interested to talk to the TUC about how we could go about that. But other organisations that we work with have done some other stuff around benefits that I think is really relevant here. So we work with Ensley, who are the insurance organisation. They came out of NUS, they came out of the student movement. And recently they've been doing stuff around supporting graduates with debt calculations, or advice on getting mortgages, or advice on entering certain sectors in which they have expertise in terms of financing and accounting, and they've been providing paid internships as well. And I think some of those things, it's about offering benefits that are really relevant to young people. I was talking to my colleague yesterday when I was at NUS, and she said she kind of summed it up when she opened her letter from a union whilst I was there talking about the fact that I was coming here, and it advertised death cover. Not something that's really on the forefront of many young workers. Important as it is, I think we need to recognise the place that many young people are in. What is it that they're thinking about? What is it that's at the forefront of their minds? And then lastly, overcoming the kind of passive acceptance point. It's quite a challenge, and exposing the injustice and helping people feel that there is hope, even though they feel powerlessness, is quite difficult. And this is certainly something that we in the student movement have faced for many years, in particular this year. How we manage to keep students engaged in our campaigns going forward, despite losing on tuition fees, is going to be a real challenge for us and for others. But I think one of the things that we've had to do is sometimes try and tone down the rage. So we as officers want to just put information on our website front and centre about how angry we are and how much injustice there is. But our research shows that even switches off many of our own students and many of our own members. So we've tried to do things that are lifestyle stories, competition giveaways, alongside our campaign messages to enable people to channel through. And that might sound not relevant to what you're doing, but I think sometimes we need to think about advertising or talking about the injustice through more stories and through more storytelling, or through more soft public awareness campaigns. And when I was thinking about this, one of the things that came to mind was one of the successful things that the feminist movement, I think, has done where they've done t-shirts and posters and advertisements. This is what a feminist looks like. And I think actually the trade union movement would benefit from doing some joint public awareness campaign or soft advertising amongst young people in colleges and schools, in universities, about what it is to be a trade union and how different trade unionists really are. And I think some of the work that you've done in being involved in organisations like Love Music, Hate Racism, in the festivals work that some trade unions are involved in the summer, has really helped soften the roots in for people to get involved in the trade union movement. But this research is only really the start, and I think it's about continually knowing your audience, and each and every one of you will be in different sectors, each and every one of you will be appealing to different young members who are going through different stages of their lives. And I think some of the ideas will be relevant to some of you, but it's about continually going out there and researching yourself, continually trialling new things. Not all of them will work, but giving something a go. You know, we've seen in Young Labour, reducing the membership rate to £1 has had a really good success. That might be something that would work for you, it might not be something that would work. Better youth union recruitment and supporting young members to get involved, I think, is really important. Linking up with professional organisations in your sector, lots of people are doing networking events, and actually lots of young people just want advice on how to get on and how to get jobs. And I really like the idea within the research from one person about delivering support in schools through school outreach, and certainly with citizenship education under threat. Is there a role there for the trade union movement and potentially NUS to step in? In NUS we see lots of organisations and private companies supporting our student societies and sports clubs, and I think potentially they benefit then from seeing a return in terms of people knowing who they are and getting involved in them. I think there's more opportunities for us to work together, both as NUS and the trade union movement, to really open up those routes for both you and for our members. Thanks.
Okay, I'm now going to ask Abigail to give her presentation.
I'm a singer, I love microphones. They've arrested Ryan. What? They've dragged him off. They're going to crucify him. Right. This calls for immediate discussion. What? Immediate. Right. New motion? Completely new motion. That there be immediate action. Once the vote has been taken. Well, obviously once the vote has been taken. You can't act on a resolution until you've voted on it. Some of you here will remember that scene from Monty Python's Life of Brian. In the research, it shows a general lack of knowledge from young people about unions, their procedures and practices. Well, that was me a few years ago. If people started to talk about motions, standing orders and committees, I would just think of the Judean People's Front. I'm just about old enough to remember the 80s, and I'm going to leave you guys to do the maths on that one. To my generation and younger, unless you grow up in a family where politics and unions are discussed, or possibly an ex-industrial society, to you, a trade union is a grainy photo, probably in black and white, of some miners, with some cloth caps, possibly, waving placards and shouting, often with a policeman in the background. Something that belongs in the history books, and something that's probably not very relevant to you. So people no longer have a job for life. The workplace has changed, and I think it's very important that unions are also seen to change as well. In the Musicians' Union, we have a particularly hard job on our hands, as many potential members are not organised within a workplace. The vast majority of our members are actually self-employed, and many of them earn very little from music. The vast majority are freelance, time is money, and they don't mess about because they can't afford to. We have to be constantly looking at the benefits we offer to members and ask ourselves if these could be improved or made more relevant. Recently, the Musicians' Union Executive Committee voted to adopt a marketing strategy. There are a lot of demands on potential members' attention, and young people are used to seeing slick marketing campaigns. It was controversial, but we decided that we needed to get the professionals in on this one. I mean, why should anybody part with their money unless we can be seen to be serious and taking them seriously? The research also highlighted a passive acceptance of the economic and employment situation. I'm quite sorry about that, because we hope to look to our young people to have the fire in their bellies to really get out there and change the world. But I'm not actually surprised. We live in a very disempowered society. There's a chronic lack of social mobility, which has actually declined. I'm sure many of you will have read the research by the LSC that says that young people born in the 70s actually have less social mobility than those born in the 50s. The old routes to a better job, greater social status, and more power and a greater stake in your society have been lost to a large extent. We no longer have a great culture of working from the bottom up. Often, in order to get to those positions, you now need a degree, and the price of that has just trebled. More wealth and power is concentrated in the hands of a few who guard it quite jealously. Class and nepotism are often seen to prevail over talent. Now, if a musician is angry about the political or economic situation, they'll write a song about it, put it up on YouTube, pass an MP3 around their friends. Who knows where that song could end up or who may be listening to it? The young people in the study were disappointed that the only option presented to them was to attend a march. I think it's very important to harness young people's energy and drive, give them alternative ways to get involved, and utilise the ways in which they interact with the world and each other. Now, I have a couple of copies of our union publication, Play, which I will be putting on the back table for people to have a quick look at. The lovely thing about Play is it looks absolutely nothing like a union leaflet. I saw it a couple of weeks ago in a venue. My first thought was, oh, that looks way too cool for me. My second thought was, oh, I wish I was still in a rock band. But I picked it up anyway and I had a good look, and it's actually really good, because there's no mention of committees or voting. There aren't any photographs, as to the best of my knowledge, of any union officials. It's actual musicians' union members saying why they're in a union, the benefits they've got, the kind of people that our young members and potential young members aspire to be like. Brendan Barber spoke earlier about the need for hope. Music's a tough industry. It's tough to get on. I used to be a struggling musician, a young musician, that really felt as though I had no control over my career and over my life. My union gave me a sense of control over that career and a sense of hope. I, like many young people, picked up a guitar hoping to change the world, and my union gave me a voice.
Thanks, Abigail, and I'll just pass over now to Ken.
Hi, I think that it's probably come across already that the research actually reflects quite a lot of what I already knew, which is that I'm part of a generation that's actually quite depressed and feel disempowered. We don't have the same sort of attitudes towards collectivism and unity and get things done together, because right from the word go, we're sort of being set on a path of competing against each other. We're aware that our schools, they're in the league table and the one down the road's up there, so we're probably like all losers and we're not going to do very well in life. And then, we go to university if we're lucky, and then the debt we get is personal debt, so we don't have that sense of collectivism. It's not like society has paid for our education even to that point. It's all quite sort of Thatcherite, we are an individual, and we don't have that sense of solidarity and sort of standing by each other. And then we go out into the workplace if we can get a job, because actually quite a lot of us are unemployed. And I graduated in 2006 and I'm still waiting to have a full-time permanent contract. It'd be lovely. So many of us are working part-time, temporary contracts. We don't feel very secure in our jobs. And I guess I can I quite related to the statement in the research which said, well, if I don't join the union, maybe the management will like me more, maybe, I'll get promotion, as in maybe I'll be more secure, why not? And I think that is actually quite a lot of how people my age actually think. We're too young to remember, the mind is right. In fact, the age group which the research has done is people born between 86 and 94. And for a lot of them, they won't even remember before a Labour government. So if you associate trade unions with the Labour movement and a Labour government, that's not necessarily a positive thing for young people, because they're going to associate that with illegal wars, introduction of top-up fees, privatisation of public services. it's not exactly a positive message that you're trying to sell. I think we can succeed and we can get young people to join trade unions. I've got a sister, she's the same age as me, but she didn't go to university, she left school, I carried on, and she got a job in 2 supermarkets. So she went to one, and then she went to another one. And it's only in the last couple of years when she's realised that, she's joined a trade union, but it's kind of quite late in the day. It took her a long time to come around to it, and despite us growing up with her father who was on the Trades Council, didn't want to join trade union, didn't see the point, it's not relevant, what can they do for me? And it's only when she's come to the acceptance that she's going to be in this job for life, well, until she has kids, I think, which is fun. But once you accept that, we're trapped, there's no promotions for us, there's no pay rises, that's when I think that young people are going to sort of look to trade unions to have a solution. But we've got to have a solution to offer, and hopefully, we can do this. But our trade unions have to actually do things for young people. I think Susan was mentioning about, looking through the websites, and I did the same. And there are some really good examples out there of trade unions that do it really, really well. And I've been really happy to be working with CWU, who've got a particularly good youth section on their website. They really do Twitter and social media, I'd say, better than any trade union. And I just want to sort of flag that up because I think the unions could learn a lot from the CWU's attitude towards their youth structures. And even though I'm not a member, I've marched with them on marches, and I'll be doing the same tomorrow. Because despite that not working in that sector, I can see them as a trade union that's engaging with my generation and fighting for people like me. So I hope that's helpful.